Some bad news to pass along, some sad news. Sonny Smart, who is a former uh, high school football coach at Bainbridge as well as Raven County for years, passed away Saturday morning, early this morning at 12:15 a.m., surrounded by his wife Sharon and their three children, Carl, Kirby, and Kendall. And of course, the Kirby I'm talking about is Kirby Smart, the football coach at the University of Georgia. Sonny Smart was Kirby's high school coach. It was Bainbridge. It was Sonny's most successful team, if I'm not mistaken. It was his most successful team at Bainbridge. They won a region championship. He won two region championships while he was a coach in Georgia, and he was at Bainbridge from '88 to '94. Then he went on to Rabun County, which I'm going to refer to as Rabun because of just because of local colloquial ties. But he and his wife moved up to Rabun. This is a shot I took of the two of them, of Kirby and his father, just after the Tennessee game in 2022. It was a rainy night that night, as you may recall. Kirby, I remember Kirby talking about, speaking of the Tennessee game, the 2020 Tennessee game, when he went for it on fourth down, very close. I think it was within the 30, Georgia's own 30-yard line. They went for it, did not get it. And he said, "I don't think my father was very happy, but was probably very happy about that with me." Of course, I asked after the championship game in Los Angeles. His father couldn't make it out there, and he said in response to the press conference that his father was kind of recovering back in home in Rabun. This is an image of Kirby with his two sons, his wife, and his mother and father. His father on his right hand shoulder there, one of his eldest son Weston on his left, his wife Mary Beth in the middle there. Mary Beth Lysette, who was a quality guard for the Dogs for Andy Lander's team in the late 90s to 2000s, and then his mother Sharon, his youngest son Andrew. So I took this image just after the SEC championship. Turns out that was the last game that Sonny would be able to see live in person. He passed away, according to the university, on early this morning. And he fought valiantly, according to this statement, but was unable to overcome his injuries. He had fallen on New Year's Eve in the daytime. The university says he fell while walking during the day on New Year's Eve in New Orleans and fractured his hip. So that's why he was in the hospital in New Orleans. Let me read one thing that they said in the statement. It said that the Smart family expresses a heartfelt gratitude to the Ochsner Hospital and medical staff for the exceptional care provided to Sonny. Additionally, they ask for continued prayers for those affected by the tragic events that occurred in the early hours of New Year's Day. The Smart family treasures everyone's thoughts and prayers and now prays for God's comfort, strength, and guidance. It's been a long week. It's been a long season. It's been a challenging season. Kirby talked about that without acknowledging that this was also going on. And I mean, obviously, he was well aware that this was going on. It's been a difficult season, and it's been an extremely successful season. But it's been a difficult season. It's been a challenging season for sure. I want to get the exact quote that he said about this year, because, I mean, I often express to y'all how I feel like things are difficult. Not that I'm in the program, because I'm not, but I travel everywhere the program goes. I see everything that they do publicly, and it's been a long year. His exact quote was talking about Jalen Walker as well as Tate Ratledge. He said, "What they did with this team in the toughest year of my tenure, easily the toughest year, they dominated the room, they controlled the room, they led the room through hard games and situations." And what was happening at that moment was his father was in the hospital. So I would say quite clearly that this has been a very difficult time for Kirby and his family. You have to think about this. This is not just that Kirby's father has passed away. Someone's husband has passed away. Mary Beth and Kirby are going to have to talk to their children about the passing of their a grandparent. Mary Beth's mother passed away before now. So this has been, so this is just challenging. Okay. And that's all I was trying to say by pointing out her mother passed away from breast cancer. Um, it's going to it's there are a lot of things that are a lot more important than football. I can assure you of that. And this will be a challenging time for Kirby. I do want to say this because of Sonny being a high school coach. Some of the most important people in my life and development were my coaches. In fact, I would say outside of my family, it's hard to say I would be where I am without them. And those people were Jack Waters, who was an all SEC player at Mississippi before going on to coach all over the place, winning a national championship at Delta State and going on to be a coach at Georgia State, Georgia Tech, etc. All throughout. Jack Waters is very important. It is very important to me. Chris Busser taught me how to play tennis, both of them at the same time. Both Coach Waters and Chris at the same time. Norman Wilkerson was my what's called academy coach in tennis. He was very important in my development. Chris won national championship at Kalamazoo. Coach Norm was someone really should write about Coach Norm. Coach Norman Wilkerson was an amazing person in South DeKalb County. He did a lot of things for a lot of people, and everybody in the tennis community knows what I'm talking about. I mean, if you date back that long, and then in college, Jerry Josie was a Vietnam vet, and we learned a lot more about life from Coach off the court than we did on it. I can tell you that right now. So, and then Dan Schmatzer, who I remain close to Coach Schmatzer. That's the person I talk about the most because it relates to me more to what Kirby is like. They are both. I mean, I wouldn't say Kirby is this way necessarily, but I mean, Coach Schmatzer was part Ric Flair and part. I've seen behind the curtain with Coach and the struggle and the come down from the games and the difficulty of having all of the Coliseum flow through your body while you're making decisions, and then you're trying to figure out how to sleep that night, whether you won or lost. And coaches are just so important, and everybody knows who Kirby Smart is. You have to live under a rock to not know that. But Sonny Smart, he was not my coach, but he was a coach while I was in high school. And, people my age have been influenced by coaches forever. And, it's really coaches and teachers and educators. They are very important in our world. And one thing that Sonny said to Lauren Smith is so important for documenting. So Lauren Smith is people fail to realize Lauren's importance and just period. Sonny spoke with him. I think this was in 2017. He was talking about his experiences as a high school football coach. He said, "I do enjoy watching." This is Sonny saying, "I do enjoy the exciting offense we see out there today." He said, He's telling this to Lauren Smith. He said, "People who know me are always talking about how I like to throw the football." He said, "We threw it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but never on Friday." Now that is funny. And he said, "I had the most enjoyable experience of all by being able to coach my son, Kirby." Of course, Kirby has an older brother, Carl. And, they lost to Dunwoody. That was Travis Stroud's Dunwoody team. Dunwoody that was a great time for Dunwoody sports, by the way. Ray Harrison and Travis Stroud, shout out. Anyway, and then they moved up after. What I do not know, but I'd be curious to know, is when they moved from Bainbridge to Rabun, did they go up there to be closer to Kirby? Because Bainbridge to Athens is a heck of a drive, whereas Rabun down is not far. And so you just see all of these connections, these current connections, say, just as an aside, Sonny was relatively successful at Rabun County. They went from 3-7 to 11-2 and region champs in a matter of, I think it was 4 years. That's a heck of a turnaround. Rabun County, I can confirm, Towns County, Rabun, they have never been good at football. But since that time, And there's been things that have changed, not because of Sonny, okay, exclusively. But since his time at Ray-Ban on, and when, the Shaws got up there, I mean, Ray-Ban and football and Ray-Ban has come together in a big, big way. And they have produced really good players. One of them happened to start for Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, which is, Gunnar Stockton. So, it's terrible that someone who's been married as long as his wife has, who has always been a very pleasant person that I've experienced. I try to stay away. I'm just going to say this. I try to stay away from, I just feel like I'm intruding when I take pictures of people celebrating with their families. I know that's strange to say, but I really hesitate doing that because that just feels personal. And like that has always made me, just for me only. And I'm not important. I'm not trying to make it that way, but I just, that's one reason why I very rarely, I try not to do photos, but but in my time covering Georgia, with Mark and Catherine, that didn't seem as, I feel like, Kirby's got kids that are young. And like, I hesitate doing that and putting it out there. But in the case of this image, I just want to say this about their family, who I you never know what a family's like, but boy, it sure seems like they support him like crazy, because his father and mother, if they're not at the home game, I mean, I wouldn't know it, because it seems like they're there a lot. And of course his wife, who has been, it sure seems like very supportive of him and what he's done, and all that's really, it's just not my business. And but every time after big games, there's just so many there are so many instances where Kirby runs to the locker room and to the sort of stage right or the left-hand side of the lock before you get to the locker room. His family is there, and they're not like, they're just there to say hello. It's not always the children, which is, whatever, but the parents and Mary Beth are there a lot. And, the embrace that he had with his father after the Tennessee game, with Keeley that he had, with, Lassiter, with a lot of those players after the Tennessee game. That was a really emotional game for them. And, I remember in in Indianapolis, after Georgia won the national championship, and there was just so much going on. And I'm pretty certain Carl Smart was there. His sister was definitely there. Her children, and Kirby just hugging them, and the parents being there, and they're tight. They say, at least it seems like it to me, and I think it's tremendously sad. I saw a lot more of how coaching affected Mark Richt, and Mark was older, and had Kirby, the truth be told, had Kirby not been back at Georgia, he would have met Mary Beth one of those days, but that made it a lot easier when he was working for Mark. And the conclusion of someone's life is a tremendously sad thing, but there should be joy there too. I've lost two very close friends, three really, if you consider. I mean, I've lost three people who were childhood friends in my life, and it's terribly sad. All three, of course, were surprises, and I've not lost a parent, thank God, but that will happen. And, you can just, the people that lead you through life more than anybody are your parents. And, mine would bend over backwards, and clearly football is such a huge part of the Smart family and the Smart world. And his wife, his mother, doing what she did for so many years in education. So the coaching is teaching. Now, people, that's what it boils down to. Can you communicate? Do you have the ability to communicate what you need someone to do rather than you just doing it? And that's hard. That is hard to do. And, the success that Kirby Smart has had at Georgia um, is often attributed to his relationship with Nick, and I don't think that that should be diminished. But I think that he couldn't call Nick and say, "Hey, what do you think I should do against Alabama? We're about to play them for a national championship." He could call his father and say, and they're not even talk about football. Just be like, "Man, I cannot believe that I could not get it on the green today. Like I just couldn't knock it in there." And now he can't do that, which is tremendously sad. That's the part. Forget the football stuff because that is sort of over, for a lot of people with their parents, that's the thing they talk about is what Kirby does. That's what brings people together. Their relationship with their parents is predicated on, we're going to go to the game, or, with grandparents or whatever. And, that sports is so much a part of lives, and I think it should be celebrated. I did not know Sonny Smart. I don't think I'm aware that I've ever talked with him or communicated with him at all. But if you are shaking a pom pom at Georgia, which I think most people here watching are, this is the quote that you should probably recall about that Sonny had to say as it relates to your relationship with your team, which is Georgia. He said, "I've always tried to remind my Georgia friends that nobody wants the Georgia program to excel more than our son." That's what Sonny said about Kirby Smart. And so it's a sad day for the Smart family and all of his friends. I just thought that's something that's important. It's not for me to say anything really further. I send my condolences to them, and I think it's a sad day. But it should also be a celebration of the success of his family, the success of his life, his time at Samford, and all of those things that you raising 3 kids. You've done something. You succeeded in some way. I can tell you that, and his children have been successful too. So, condolences to the Smart family, and hopefully we'll have some football to talk about the next time. But very sad news coming out of New Orleans. Thanks for watching.